Bitcoin is rallying right now along with a lot of other altcoins, but the question is, can we keep going to the upside? Is the fundamental news there? Are the charts there? What is going to stop this latest rally? Guys, in this video, I'm going to be going through and talking about actually the 4 big reasons this rally is not yet done and could be significantly moving to the upside. Now, some of you guys are wondering probably, Tim, haven't you been talking about lower prices in the last couple of weeks? Well, I'm going to be addressing all of that in this video. The first thing I want to make sure you guys understand is, despite the fact that there is maybe still a little part of me that questions and wonders if we're going lower, I'm always looking for reasons to be prepared to change my opinions, and you should as well. So, before we get started, I want you guys to start off with that thought process. People who refuse to change their mind, they're the ones that lose money. People that are willing to change their mind, those are the ones that make a lot of money. So that's a quick little tip right there in the very beginning of the video that you should be using in your investment decision making. With that said, before we get into the charts, let's talk about those 4 big reasons why Bitcoin and crypto could continue to move to the upside. Now, the first one we're going to be taking a look at here is GBDC. And I'm going to show you guys some articles. I'm not going to go through all of them necessarily. This isn't a let's go read together. This is just the first argument, a reason why Bitcoin could be getting bullish, crypto could be getting bullish. GBDC outflows dropping 70% from the peak. Bitcoin exchanges shed Bitcoin. What's the overall point here, guys? Well, what was the main catalyst that kind of bled us from 49,000 down to 38.5? It was that GBDC was selling off. People were liquidating their GBDC holdings. Some of them were moving it over into Grayscale, but some of them were just taking their profits. What we're seeing develop right now is it looks like that is coming to a close. And if that's true, that is a bullish catalyst for Bitcoin. And likewise, it's going to be that way for the rest of the altcoin space as well. That's reason number 1, we could be getting bullish. The second one is that the halving is coming. Now, the article here says there may be one last chance to buy Bitcoin at bargain prices, according to Rec Capital. But ultimately, what this article is about, it's about the halving. And ultimately, when you look at the time period we're coming into, we almost always, and again, this is only a certain amount of times that we've had a halving event, but we almost always rally into it within this 77-day period. In fact, let's go ahead and go over to the charts real quick. Let's go out to the daily chart. Let's kind of look back at the past here and see what pre-halving events have looked like. You guys can see right here, this is during May 11th. Now, my thing's a little bit off. May 11th is going to be falling right in about here. So you can see up to this point, yes, we had the massive COVID dip, but we had a big rally back up into that halving event. This one might be a little complicated. You might say, okay, would we have rallied into that event if we hadn't had COVID? So for that, let's just go ahead and go back and look at the last halving before that, all the way back in July of 2016 on July 19th. Let's see. This is once again off, so I have to go ahead and fix it here. Where's our July 16th? So July 16th is going to be coming in right about here. Now, you will see there was a little bit of a sell-off right after we got into our halving. But ultimately, look at the time period leading into July 19th of 2016. We did have some big rallies. A little bit of a cool-off here right before as well. But the overall point here, guys, is that Bitcoin likes to rally going into the halving. Then it trades sideways, maybe a little down for just a little bit of time before the real bull market takes off just a couple of months later. We saw it in 2016. We saw it in 2020. Ultimately, this is another reason number 2, that more than likely we will be seeing this happen once again in a rally up to that point. Now, that's going to be April 22nd. We're not quite there. So the other part of this article is saying we might still see a dramatic drop in price in the next 2 weeks. But ultimately, the next 2 weeks, according to this article, could be the last good spot with low prices to be buying Bitcoin relatively to what they'll be in the next couple of months. Let's keep moving on, though, and go on to reason number 3. Glassnode co-founder warns a Bitcoin surge could trigger a $1 billion liquidation event. Here's why. Again, I'm not going to go into the articles. Ultimately, what we're setting up here is when you look at liquidations, there is a chance that we could see a lot of shorts liquidated and a short squeeze happen. Why is that? Look at all of the yellow sitting right above us up here at 44,300. Look at even more as we kind of cut up here towards 47,000. And then if we can cross the $50,000 mark, we're going to get rid of a lot of shorts, a lot of selling pressure. Again, we haven't been at 50,000 in years now. But if we can start to make a rally, a push, and we just start taking level after level out, then we could be seeing over $1 billion of shorts liquidated. Now, before I move on, and I'm going to address this later in the video as well, it's not just the liquidations above us. If the bears are able to make a stand, and we're going to talk about 45,000 because that's a level we've discussed on this channel before. If they make a stand, look at the liquidations down below us, starting down here towards 38,500. If we make a dramatic push to the downside, now you're starting to talk about a long squeeze down there. But ultimately, again, if we keep pushing up and the trend is up right now in the shorter time frames, there is still a lot of liquidations above us we could capture and wreck some bears in the future. So that's going to be number 3. Number 4 is going to be this last one that despite this dip we've had over the last couple of weeks, the Bitcoin whales increased their holdings by $3 billion. What does this mean? Smart money, long-term holders, people that are holding a large portion of Bitcoin, they're still buying Bitcoin. Even though price has gone down from 49,000 all the way to 38.5, they still see this as a great time to be accumulating more Bitcoin because they see the writing on the wall. Bitcoin is going to have a bright future. Those are the 4 reasons Bitcoin and crypto should be surging. I'll run back through them. GBDC, slowing down their sales. Halving, it's coming very soon, later on in April. Short squeezes are potentially piling up. We can see over $1 billion worth coming. And the last one is that the whales are still buying despite the prices going to the downside. Now, those are the reasons to be bullish. And I want you guys to know, I am extremely bullish long term. I've told you guys already, I have expectations that we could be seeing this bull market send the price of Bitcoin well over $100,000, pushing closer towards 200, if not going over it. I also believe a lot of these altcoins, such as Cardano, Solana, AVAX, Chainlink, are going to be doing somewhere in the world of 20x's from where we even currently are at this point in time. But that doesn't mean we're ready to go just yet. Before we jump onto the charts, I'm going to show you the levels I'm looking at. I also want to continue to remind you of something. These articles we just went through, and you can find these and several other arguments all over the internet right now, are still being written and controlled by people who do not always have your best interest in mind. In fact, a lot of times these articles, when I read through every single one of them, you could find a flaw to say, yeah, this is bullish, but it doesn't mean it's over. Like GBDC slowing down. Yeah, it's slowing down, but what if they're just waiting for price to go up to start selling even more of it? The halving is coming. Yeah, the halving is coming, but we could still dip dramatically, and just like we did back in 2020. That's not a lock that just because the halving is coming very soon, that means price has to go up. When you talk about the short squeeze piling up, well, I showed you on the charts. Yeah, there's short squeezes piling up, but there's also long squeezes. So that's kind of shooting in either direction. And the last one, the whales are still buying over $3 billion. Well, they also just saw a massive dip. And whales, smart whales like Michael Saylor, they know to always be buying Bitcoin because at the end of the day, whether you buy Bitcoin at 49,000 or 38,000 or 30,000, that is a good buy when you think about the 200,000, 500,000, $1 million price action that we will probably see in the next 10 to 15 years. So just because these things are happening does not mean that the bottom of Bitcoin is in. Let's go to the charts and let's take a look for ourselves. Now, I've told you guys here before, we have been tracking this for a while. This level, we hit my first level here just a couple of days ago, down at 42.7. When we look at this and we look at the fixed range volume profile, if my tool will click up for us, that was the level we were keeping an eye on because of our point of control. But I told you guys, I didn't think that would be the stopping point. It was temporarily. We actually came into this little zone here, topped out at my 42.7, created our little symmetrical triangle pattern, which I told you guys yesterday. I had to put a tweet out saying, guys, look out, breakout coming. Sure enough, within the next 2 hours, we did get a breakout to the upside. And now my next level to watch is our value area high up here at 45,000. If we get above this level, I'll start to really entertain the concept of maybe the bottom is in. Of course, there's other levels we're going to be keeping an eye on above us. Ultimately, you probably are looking closer towards 47 as being the confirmation. But I think just getting above 45, if the bulls can do it and we can liquidate these short squeezes like we were showing back here, because there's a significant level right here at 45, I think it's really, if we can get above this 46.7, get above 47,000, now you're really starting to cook with grease here for the bulls to get those liquidations we talked about earlier on in the video. The problem is we're not at those levels just yet. And to celebrate wins before they happen is a big mistake. Again, in distribution phases, which we've talked about time after time in this video over the last week or so, you see these ranging events happen. You see times where we peak out, fall to a lower level, and then we make one more drastic effort to the upside. Don't take my word for it. You can just go back and look on the charts and see for yourself. For example, way back here in April of 2021, when we peaked out here all the way at almost 65,000, we had a dramatic 27% drop, followed by a nice surge in price. I'm sure everyone was getting back bullish. In fact, I was around this time. I was trading. Everyone was bullish right here back in May of 21. We had heard rumblings that something bad would happen, but people ultimately seeing bullish price action, we're like, oh, no, we're good. We're going to the upside, only to top out back at 59.3 and then plummet all the way down into the $20,000 range. What's my point here? This was a distribution phase. This was a distribution phase. Not very long, but it happened. We've seen distribution phases even happen more recently within 2023, back here in both April and June, July of 2023. You see these ranges where we trade sideways, we hit a peak, we fall, and then we make some desperation rallies only to be disappointed with a dead cat bounce, and the price moves back to the downside. My other argument here, and again, remember these articles we're talking about that are so bullish, being written by companies, entities, and whales that want to take your Bitcoin. They want you to buy tops. Ultimately, these entities know historically, not just even on Bitcoin, but charts in general, you're constantly looking for good levels to buy. And one of the best levels to buy is when you have a strong level of resistance like this down here at 31.8. Again, resistance all the way back in 2022, resistance in this zone in April and in July of 2023. And then here in October, when we went through it, there's been no retesting of this zone. Why is that significant? Well, let's take a look here back in history of Bitcoin price. For example, back here in 2019 or 2018 rather, significant resistance. We drop below, we break to the upside, and what happens? Price pulls back all the way down to that level back here in December of 19. You go back to 2016, right here, significant resistance at $474. We blast through it here in May of 2016. Where do we pull back down to? Oh, look at that, $476. This is a classic movement on Bitcoin and in just investing portfolios in general. These are untapped levels of former resistance, never turned into support. And a lot of times the whales, the smart money institutions, they know that that's going to be the best buy level. That's one of the reasons why I have it marked as a great buy here on my chart. I still think there's levels down here like 34,000. If you look at the liquidations, that's going to be a decent level to buy as well. But ultimately, I'm going to keep my eye on a significant level of former resistance that is untapped since we broke through it. I still believe there's a decent chance that price makes this move to the downside. Now, I'm preparing myself just in case I'm wrong. I'm not selling off my Bitcoin right now thinking I'm going to get a much better buy level down here at 31.7. But I am keeping some dry powder. I'm waiting with some DCA strategy down for those lower levels. If they never come, I still have plans on how to get that money into Bitcoin in the future because I love Bitcoin and it's going to make us a lot of money. It's going to protect our value a lot more in the future. But for now, I cannot back away from the argument that lower prices should be coming because historically we've had these little dead cat bounces, fake out events happen before, only to crush the spirit of the retail investor and go much lower. Another reason I'm kind of feeling this way, when I start to turn on my Lux Algo indicators and I come to lower time frames, you will see that despite the fact that we might still have room to the upside up here to 45, we are starting to run into some strong resistance. Again, we're back up here towards equilibrium. If you were to pull up our Fibonacci levels, you're going to see 45 is going to fall squarely in the golden pocket retracement. Go ahead and look at that right there, ladies and gentlemen. That yellow line right there, golden pocket, lining up perfectly with our purple dotted line. A lot of times these dead cat bounces will go back to golden pocket areas. That's squarely in the take profit zone. We're under a buy order right now on the 4-hour chart from Lux Algo, but we are seeing that golden pocket, that value area high line up perfectly within our take profit zone. Then you also start to look at our oscillators, which right now we are seeing green momentum and money flow going positive with excessive buyers. But the minute these excessive buyers start to leave the space, things could get ugly pretty fast. We're sitting under bearish divergence. Our MACD looks like it wants to start coming down, and our RSI is telling us we're pretty overbought at the moment. Not saying we're done. Again, I still think we have a little more room to the upside here, but we're seeing the signs come up on the space right now that we do look like we are topping out. But here's the thing. It's not about what I think. It's about what you think. I'm going to have my decisions to make with my money. You need to make your decisions with your money. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are about future price action of Bitcoin, about altcoins, about crypto. In future videos this week, I will be going more in depth on altcoins still, because we're still making our way through that series of how low can these altcoins drop. It's just hard to make those videos right now with everything pumping. So make sure to stick around and stay tuned for everything coming out on this channel. Make sure you smash the like button on this video if you found it helpful. And if you are new here, hit that subscribe button. We are almost to 8,000 subscribers, and we will be giving $100 away again when we hit that level. But you got to be subscribed to the channel to win that. With that said, though, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have for you in this video. You guys have a good day. I'll see you in the next one.